before I talk about selections, I wanted to give you a secret about the crop tool. Now we've already got this resized, and the crop tool, it's gonna want you to do all kind of crazy stuff with the crop tool. And there's a better way. So when you're in the crop tool, the book tells you to do it all kind of, take the lower right and bring it down, and you have to sit here and watch until it gets to the exact right. That's kind of hard. The secret to that is to just kind of crop a little bit and then go up here to the top. It's got all these presets, like if you wanted it to be 8.5 by 11 exactly. So we know what we want it to be, 10.250. So go ahead and click in width and height, and then we can tell it exactly instead of trying to move your mouse until you get it exactly right. 10.25 space IN for inches, and then 10.25 space IN for inches. And now you can just type it in instead of trying to get it. And realize while you're in crop, you can move it all around. So the book kind of wants it to be the lady off, the lady off to the side a little bit here. She can move her over there, and then when you've got it the way you want it, hit either enter or yes. So that's an easier way. Just type it in instead of trying to get it with your mouse. So just thought I'd show you that little secret. I'm actually going to undo this so we can talk about selections. So Control Z for undo, and let's talk about selections. So if I wanted to select just part of this to delete it or to change the color of it, I need to make a selection. So one of the first ways to make selections is just right here, this rectangular marquee tool or a circle or a single line. So I'm going to grab that tool and just make a box. And it gives us something called the marching ants. Now they call those the marching ants, and it's just that is what everything that's inside there is selected. So for instance, if I were to hit the delete key, it has deleted just what is inside that box. That's the selection. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. To get rid of marching ants, you say Control D. So that's the basic idea of making a selection with these marquee tools. If I wanted it to be a circle, it is now whatever I do is only going to happen inside that circle. So anything that I might do to it, like I can put a filter on it, like let's blur, let's see if that'll work. Let's blur inside just that circle. You see that it blurred just inside that circle. I'm going to cancel that. I don't want to do it. But that's the idea behind a selection. So Control D. So those are the first selection tools. The next selection tools are the lasso tool, and they are going to have you use that. So if you have the lasso tool, it's just you can draw, and it's going to make a selection. There's other lasso tools. Control D to get rid of that. The polygon lasso tool is kind of like the pen tool. You could draw straight lines around things. So that might help if you had something that was angular. And then the magnetic lasso tool is how we used to have to do things when I zoomed in, alternate, and scrolled my mouse. If you're next to something, it will kind of magnetizes it, finds the differences in values. So it's kind of seeing the edge of that. I'm just dragging my mouse and it's choosing the points. So that's the magnetic lasso tool. One of the things it's going to have you do this week is change a selection. So let me go back and just make a basic lasso selection. I can take that selection. Let me hit delete again so you can see. You see that it's making a real harsh. You could go up before you make any changes and say select, modify, and you can feather that. So let's feather it. I'll feather it a lot. Well, let's feather it 50 pixels. Now, it doesn't look like anything's changed, but when I hit delete, you can see it did feather the edges of that selection. And they are going to have you do something similar to that this week. So that's the idea of making a selection and then feathering it or changing and modifying it. I'm going to say Control Z to undo and Control D to get rid of my marching ants. Okay, so the main selection tools that everybody uses is this next one down. Which there are 3 of these. If you hold your mouse down, you'll see there's 3. The magic wand is the first one. Now, magic wand works best if you are just on a photo that's just over white, like if you get something that has just been taken over white and you want to get rid of the white background. It's going to grab things that are similar. So if I have this turned on and I click right here in this black, it's going to kind of look at everything that is similar to that black. And you could add to the selection by hitting Shift and just keep adding. Now, this is a pretty complex photo, so this isn't going to work. The Magic Wand tool is one of the original tools, and it works best with just very simple. See, if I were to hit delete, that's not a very good, yeah, that doesn't look very good. So let's undo that. The next one is what everybody pretty much uses nowadays, which is the quick selection tool. Quick selection tool is attached to your brushes. So you see that little round circle is my brush. It can be bigger or smaller if you need to be more detailed. And the bracket keys on your keyboard will make that bigger and smaller. That works bigger and smaller. That works with all paint tools in Photoshop. So when you're in this tool, you just click and drag, and it will just kind of grab everything that's similar. And if you want to add to it, just click and drag some more. Click and drag some more. So the quick selection tool is pretty much what everybody uses now. It's pretty good. So let me undo that one and go to the next one. The object selection tool. You can just draw a box around something, and the artificial intelligence will look at it and see and make a selection. And it does a pretty good job. This is good if you had a photo with 5 or 6 people in it and you just wanted to select one person because you needed to color correct them or do whatever you needed to do to that one person. If you had 5, you could just say just this one. So that's a pretty good new tool. Now, a really good one that it has, if you are in any of the selection tools, this will appear up here, and select subject is really good. It works great with portraits or people that are right in the center because the artificial intelligence will find it for you. There you go. It did a great job. So select subject will appear if any of these or any of the selection tools are turned on. And once again, if I were to hit delete, it got just that stuff. Now, the last one is pretty complex. Let's see. Let me grab another photo real quick. So if you had a photo like this, all of these that we've learned so far would kind of be really hard. Like select subject is not going to work. The quick selection tool, it'd be very, very hard to get all of these little, it'd just be very, very hard. You could spend hours and hours trying to get this. So for a photo like this, the best thing to do, let's say we wanted to change this sky out to a different color or put some clouds behind it. If you go up into the select menu, there's one called color range. And what's really good about that is you can sample the color that you want it to add. So let's say this blue right here. And then, there's different tones of blue in here. If you see this blue down here is darker. So I'm going to go add to it with this plus and say add this color blue. And there's a bunch of different blues. By the way, I'm using the space bar. When you click on the space bar, do you see the little hand tool comes up? And you can let go. You can press the space bar, hand tool comes up, and you can kind of move it around. That works in every tool in Photoshop. Very useful. Anyway, I'm going to add some more to it. All right, I'm not going to spend forever on this, but it's going to get anything that's blue in all these little colors and stuff. So I'm not sure how good this is. Let's just see. You can see my marching ants. So I'm going to add a layer mask, which is this right here. Oh, it's backwards. Hold on. I'm going to go to properties and invert this mask. Hold on one second. Invert. Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to do. And it didn't do that bad of a job. We, of course, now could go into select and mask and fix that. I'll show you select and mask in a second. If I wanted to change this to a different color, like let's make it, I'm just going to fill this with a color. There you go. And I'm going to put it behind it. Yeah, so it's not too bad. I needed to refine it a little bit more. You can kind of see all of the blue around the edges. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but the color range, so once again, that was select color range. That is very, very useful for photos like this. So you might want to mess around with that. So the way the book has you do this one this week is, and this is where I take the most points off for this assignment. It tells you to take this quick selection tool and get a basic selection. And that looks pretty good, except for we need to get the hair. And the main thing that people do a bad job on is these twigs right here and the hair. So the way you do that is once you have the marching ants, you're going to go right up here to select and mask. It's going to give you this new menu. So the book tells you to use the onion skin. I tend to like this overlay one, which it kind of overlays it with whatever color you want. and that's showing you everything that is pink right now is not selected. I kind of like that one. Onion skin's fine if you want to try it. And of course, here's the marching ants. So maybe I'll click back over to overlay in a second. And of course, you can make the transparency of this to see what's supposed to be back there. So you can see that the hair is not selected. All those little wispy hairs is not selected. And we've got some extra stuff selected that we don't need to be selected. So the best way to fix this is this second little tool right here, which is called the Refine Edge Brush tool. And you can make it softer and harder. One thing, make sure your spacing is down to 1. Anyway, you just start kind of moving it around and it will fix it. You see it's adding back in and taking away things that are there. It's putting back all those little tiny wisps. It's a pretty cool thing. Let me put it back on overlay because I think that shows it better. Yeah, do you see that it's added those back in? Now over here, we haven't used it yet, so it hasn't added those in. I can bring this down a little bit. There's some wisps. Put those back. And sometimes you can't see it because they're so tiny, but they're there. Now, this does really use up the processor on your computer. Mine is really having to think. So that looks pretty good. I got a little bit of a booger right here. That looks better. Like I said, students always do a bad job on these twigs. So really try and take your time to get the twigs. You just kind of move around, let your computer think about it. It's, like I said, it's using artificial intelligence. I'm going to pause this and make this look a little bit better. Okay, so this isn't great, but it's better. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And you see I have got the marching ants, and you can't really tell that they're in there, but they are. And now I'm going to add a mask to this, which is this little button right here. And you can see, now I can see the twigs. What it does is it didn't actually delete that. I was just deleting things to kind of show you as an example. What it did was put a mask over it. So if you look this little thing where everything that's white you can see and everything that's black you can't in the mask. So that's white to reveal, black to conceal. If we disable this, I'm just going to right click. You can see that it's still there. I didn't delete it. So if I need it back, it's still there. I just masked it out. So now if I wanted to put a different background, and once again, I'm just kind of doing this to show you. Let's put a color behind it. And I move that underneath it. You can see that I have taken away what was there. It's still there. I just deleted it. I just masked it. So that's the idea of selections. And I really would look at that. This is the power of Photoshop. So that's a real basic idea of selections.